Hello, this is Frost Princess Hannah, also known as Hannah Heliolisk or Krubby, and I'm a player of Yokai Watch Wibble Wobble who really enjoys the game. I play it a lot, and I am ranked in the top 25 for score attack almost every week. I want to help contribute to the community by teaching everyone about the various yokai in the game, so I'm going to start making videos about each tribe, telling about them, and ranking their abilities. So I'll say what they're good at, what they're not so good at, and who's the best. So hopefully I can make a series about this. I'm a bit shy, but I think I can do a good job. So we're going to start off this today with the Brave Tribe. The Brave Tribe is a really strong one. Of any tribe, they probably have some of the best unity for using a single type. So let's start off with Pandle. So Pandle is he's just kind of this bad early game yokai. He's an evolution yokai, and evolution yokai, they're not good. They're never meant to be good because they're supposed to evolve into something much better. So he basically just exists so you can turn him into Undy. Oops, my bad. So Undy, he's a C rank, and again, he's just not that great just because Brave Tribe has so many good ones. But what is nice about him is that he's really easy to level up the Sultimate for. Leveling up your Sultimate level is extremely important for having good yokai, and even though Undy isn't that strong, he's really easy to level up the Sultimate for, because you can befriend him multiple times much more easily than most yokai, because how befriending works is, if you don't have a yokai in your party yet, like if you don't have one at all, then you're 10 times more likely to befriend it. And so once you befriend it, you're only a tenth as likely as the first time you befriended it. However, with Pandle, if you involve him, then you get that 10 times more likely chance of getting Pandle again once you fight him, because you don't have him with you right now. He turned into Undy. So that means that you can very easily get Pandle, get him to level 16, and evolve him repeatedly to level up Undy super fast. That being said, Undy, he gets outclassed fast. He's a random Wibwob popper. And that takes us to Tonbo. So Tonbo, he's a direct attacker, and so he attacks a single yokai without popping anything on the board, and that is extremely, extremely good to have. The reason why is that when you're trying to get the super high score, you don't want to kill them as fast as possible. What you want to do is get a bunch of huge Wibwob of a single yokai, size 13 or bigger each, which means that when you pop them, it will max out your Sultimate. And then use a Sultimate, pop a Wibwob. Use a Sultimate, pop a Wibwob until you've used all of them. And that will let you do all that in a single fever time to get maximum damage, which is extremely, extremely powerful. And if you use a popper, such as Undy, well, you'll just pop all those big Wibwobs and not get to go and max out your Sultimate repeatedly. So that's why Tonbo is really good. If you get him to a high level, he can put in a ton of work against yokai that are weak to Brave, which is Mysterious and Slippery. So even in score attack, he can actually be really good. Next we have Mochismo and Minochi. They're basically the same yokai, like just slightly different stats, but same rank, same power, which is growing Wibwobs. And this is also really helpful, powerful for that strategy of trying to use a bunch of Sultimates in a single fever time. Because if you go and max out, if you go and fill the board, pop every single Wibwob on the board except for a single yokai you want to use, such as say Tonbo, then what these guys can do, you can use their Sultimate and they'll grow to Wibwob. And if you get their Sultimate to level 6, I believe, then it will be size 7, which means that if you pop those two size 7 Wibwobs, then you'll have a maxed out Sultimate. So these guys can basically give you another free Tonbo Sultimate, along with the ones that you already have. So that's really powerful. There's better inflators though you'll probably be using, but These guys are good because they're pretty easy to get very early on in the game and aren't too hard to level up. I choose my Nochi over Machismo because Machismo you probably want to be fusing with Deluma to get Darumacho if you're trying to go in and get as many yokai with as many high ultimates as possible. Next we got Blazion, and I really like Blazion, but oh my god, he is not good. He, he's a Breaking Ball yokai. Breaking Balls are terrible. You'd expect them to do about the same amount of damage as a Popper, but for some reason they don't. They just do a ton less damage, and so that's not worth it. And then what's even worse is that if he goes and turns a Wibwob on the side of the screen into a Breaking Ball that's pressed against the wall, it'll only pop like a portion of the Wibwobs that it would normally, and because so that would mean that would do even less damage. So basically every single Breaking Ball yokai is really weak with their ultimate. Given that Blazion is only a C rank and Brave type has so many better yokai, there's really no reason to ever use him even if he's adorable. Now we have Quaken. He's a yokai that pops Whipple on the bottom of the screen, which, although usually not that great, actually has a good niche, which is that after you've had a popper break a ton of Wibwob, or if you popped a bunch of big ones, then a ton of Wibwobs will rain down from the sky. And how the physics work inside Wibwob, they'll all squish the ones below them, and they'll all squish to the bottom of the screen for a moment. And during that time, if you time it right, you can have Quake and pop all of them at once for much, much higher damage than usual. And that can be pretty good. Again, this Brave Tribe, so there's better stuff. Which takes us to Siro, who is actually super duper good. Siro is an attack booster, and he's an A rank, and attack boosting is extremely good. It's, again, it doesn't disrupt the field with popping, and you basically powers up all your other yokai, which, again, you can use to power up someone really good, such as Tonbo. I mean, there's better than Tonbo, but he's just one I've already covered. Because, so like, then say you use Siro to increase the attack, then you use a score booster to increase the score, then you use like an inflator, such as Minochi, to go and inflate a Wibwob, to inflate two more Wibwobs, and you go and like fill up the screen with a bunch more big ones, and then suddenly you've got attack boosted, score boosted, tons of prepared huge Wibwobs, all ready to go for when you activate the Fever Time, and suddenly you've done so much damage at once that you're going to get an insanely high score. So Siro's really good at that. That being said, there is a Brave tribe that's just straight up better than him, which is Maximus N. But what Siro has as an advantage is that he's really easy to get for an A rank, and for a yokai as good as him. Like, things like Elder Bloom and Beelzebub, who are some of the best yokai in the game, and Komashura, they are super difficult to get. But Siro, he's an A rank in the Crank-a-kai, and if you just crank it, like, you're eventually going to get him. It might take a while, but you'll get him pretty early on, like, probably before you even reach the final boss in a casual run, and he's helpful in the casual run too. And then also, you can grind him in the yokai world as well, so he's easy to get the ultimate up. It's easy to raise his ultimate. Now we've got Beetler, and Beetler is a resistance booster. He makes it so that you basically get shielded for a while and take less damage. The only time that's really helpful is if you're trying to do a strategy for, like using an item dropping yokai or a befriending yokai, where like you just need to go and have more time to go and set up more ultimates to go and get the maximum out of that while still not wasting anything for Fever Time. So Beetler can help you with that, but he's not really good for much else. Yeah, he's just not very good. Now we got Beetle, and Beetle is the best. We call him a hider, which means that he hides all his Wibwobs from the screen. Basically, he just pops only his Wibwobs, and then they vanish for a certain period of time. He makes his vanish for 28 seconds, and he's got insanely high stats, and that can be really helpful for if you're trying to go and again like fill the screen with a single type of Wibwob, because instead of having to spend tons of time just popping each individual yokai, each individual Wibwob that isn't the one that you want, you can just have him remove all of himself and they won't spawn for a while, increasing the odds of the one that you do want dropping. Although, although he's probably not the best use for in score attack where you want to go and be having every single yokai contributing as much as possible to getting as many ultimates as you can. But he's still pretty good at, in just general runs, trying to go and get huge amounts of a single type of Wibwob, along with just having really good bulk, really good attack, surviving a long time. We've got now these guys can kind of be classed together. Cruncha, Zerberker, Snartle, Slice and Rice, I guess, and Lionheart. They're all random poppers, except for Crunch and Slice and Rice, who pops center and does a vertical slice respectively. And all of them, they just suffer from what I call Shogun syndrome, which is even though they're not bad, well, Slice and Rice is bad. He's just a random D rank that doesn't do anything. These guys, they're not bad. They're all good yokai, but Shogun is so good. These guys, they kind of find themselves just not being as good in comparison. If you want to be using multiple brave poppers, then you might be using Shogun and Snartle, or Shogun and Cruncher, or maybe all three. But overall, they're just strong yokai, high attack, decent HP, strong ultimates, but you'd probably just want to be using Shogun instead. That being and so let's just talk about Shogun. Shogun is incredible. In score attack, he can get you high scores. Not the highest, there's better for score attack, but he can still put in a lot of work for you. And he's probably the best yokai in the entire casual run, which is what I just refer to playing through the levels of Wibble Wobble, reaching the reaching the bosses and stuff like that. Because besides having a really high attack and decent HP, Shogun's also a legendary, and that means that he's got a super strong ultimate, popping random Wibwobs, and he's also surprisingly easy to get. You can get him in stage 80 by clearing in 80 seconds, which will give you Insomni. Once you have Insomni, you'll probably have all the seals to get Shogun, so you'll have him really early game. He's probably who you'll be using your soul secrets on, because there's no other way to raise it, but he gets such huge power increases. How ultimates work for rankings is basically they each have a tier because there's 7 levels of ultimate. So if you have a level 1 ultimate Shogun, his ultimate will be as strong as a level 2 Snartle, who's an S rank but not a legend. And then Shogun will be as strong as a level 3 Berserker's ultimate. And so on. So it goes down that progression, A, B, C, D, E, with legend at the very top. So Shogun, he's super strong, super easy to get, and just, he doesn't, there's really just there's almost nothing that can really do his job better than him. There's one other who's about equal to him, which is Illuminoct, who has a much higher attack and HP, but a slightly weaker ultimate. Although that being said, Illuminoct, he's a limited time only super rare crank yokai, so you probably won't be getting him nearly as easy, if at all. Like, you probably have to be playing for a long time and during a certain time period when he's in the crank to get him. So then there's Lion, who evolves into Lionheart at level 36, just another bad evolution yokai. Strangely, he's a single attacker, and single attackers are good, but when you're in E rank, single attacking can only take you so far before you start to suck. Tublappa, he's another one that removes, he's a hider, removes himself from the board. Only D rank. You get him at the beginning of the game, so I guess that's something. But, again, better ones. Here's Sergeant Burley. He's amazing. He is so good. Sergeant Burley, he's a score booster, and this doesn't really do much for you in just, like, completing levels. Like, it doesn't, the ultimate doesn't actually do anything for defeating enemies. However, what it does do is increase your score by a lot, and what increasing a score does is it gives you more money, and it gives you more experience. And both of those are extremely valuable. You get stronger yokai, you get to use the crank-yokai more and get rid of more level caps and stuff like that. And also in score attack, I mean, if you want to be, you're trying to get the highest score possible. So having a score booster is just amazing because score boosters are so powerful. He's only a C rank, but there's only 4 score boosters in the game right now. So that means that he doesn't really get outclassed at all, even unless you only want to have a single score booster on your team. But if you want 2 score boosters, then Sergeant Pearly's who you're going to go for. The fact that you get him super duper early in the game, like by the 12th level, I think, and you get him guaranteed, just makes him even better. However, he is hard to level up this ultimate for due to the fact that he's only on that single level. He doesn't appear anymore past that, and he's got a pretty low befriend rate, so you have to fight him a bunch if you want to start leveling up, but it's very much worth it if you're trying to get good score attack rewards. Let's see, then we kind of talked about Lionheart again, just outclassed, got Shogun syndrome. Momotarnyan is not yet in the game. This has like yokai that are also in Puny Puny, which is the Japanese version of the game, which is further. And so, so this website has some that we aren't going to talk about yet. However, Nyan is an event yokai, which means you can only get him during a certain period of time. And he's not very good. He's just a B rank that pops up in the center. I mean, Luma talked, we talked about who's able to match Shogun, but it's much harder to get. Now, Maximus N, he's like Siro, only he also heals health. Even though he's a B rank, for some reason the usual ranking system doesn't apply to him. When you max out his ultimate, he's just as strong as a maxed out Siro. So there's very little reason not to use him over Siro other than that he has a lower HP stat. But he also heals you, which is super helpful because if you're running an offense team that's trying to go and spend a while setting up, then every bit of HP you can get counts for a lot because you don't want to be dying. Let's see, and then Mud Munch, he's an item dropper. If he uses Sultan, will increase the odds of the opposing yokai dropping an item. You can use his ultimate up to 3 times in a game where inside a single round where it will still have an added effect. So yeah, so that's if you want to go and be trying to get items, especially if you're trying to find rare items, then yeah, that's good. But there's better item droppers, and yeah, like Mud Munch you probably won't be using because you don't get them until after the Yokai world. That's super late in the game. And at that point, you're definitely going to at least have Cynic or Badinyan or Bad Dude, who are all much better item droppers. So you probably won't be using Mud Munch at all. And the rest of these guys, they're not in the game. So that's the Brave Tribe, and thank you for watching. I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be doing this for every tribe in the game. I'll eventually be covering all of these. Please like, comment, tell me what I can improve on, tell me what I did and didn't do right, and hopefully I'll be seeing you soon. I want to make a series out of this, and if I'm enjoying this, I might start becoming a repeat YouTuber. So, thank you for watching. Bye everyone, this is Hannah, signing out.